Hello, everybody, and welcome into our latest live video. Today it is the 15th of April, 20. Whoa, now I'm hearing myself. I found a flaw in my setup. I have to mute myself, apparently. And we're using a different technique for broadcasting today, and apparently I'm just a little out of practice with it because I've got an echo here. So I am going to just check a setting here really quick. I should have the option to disable echo. Yeah, echo cancellation's on, so I'm not sure why that's happening. Okay. Well, we'll work through this while we're live. It's some button I need to press somewhere. And just go right here. That should be the button. And now, okay, my bad. Sometimes there's certain things we can do to get ready for the show that aren't going to happen until we go live, and that was one of them. Now, today, a good friend and a peer in this industry, working as a computer tech for approximately, as we're pretty close in experience, over 30 years. And with his own YouTube channel and his own interactive community, we share a lot in common. You probably already are familiar with him. And if not, if you like my content, I think you will also enjoy his content as well. He's got more of a regular schedule, where I'm more of an afternoon night person. So we don't compete with one another in the space. And we have very different approaches to how we solve problems, which is always interesting and sometimes frustrating. But you know what? That's what I love about the industry. We get to run our businesses and use our techniques so long as we get to the result the customer wants within the expectation of the customer, time and money, et cetera, et cetera. And you can't say one person's method is better than another person unless one of us went out of business. But here we still stand. So clearly we're both doing it right in a way that works for us. And that's the great appeal of this industry, is you can be an individual, you can do things your way. And so long as you're getting results and you're staying in business, that's the only thing that matters, right? Because it doesn't matter what anybody's opinion is. If you've got checks coming in and you can pay your bills, you don't need to hear those opinions. You need to cash the checks. Now, with all of that intro out of the way, please welcome back to the show. It's been a while, Mr. Doug Betts. There he
Hello
is.
there. Yeah, hi.
I got the Obi-Wan Kenobi greeting.
Oh, is that what that is?
No, the
I'm not,
well, hello there.
all right. Well, I'm not a Star
It's
Wars person, so I don't know that.
Well, I'll forgive you for that.
All right. Barely.
Let me
barely, but you will.
let, let me just put us side by side. Here we go. How you been?
I'm good. I've been good. Just trucking, moving along one foot after another.
You know what? We have a lot in common. Me too.
I'm going to turn this camera a little bit.
Yeah, bear with
That's
us, folks, as we make
drive me nuts. All right, there we go.
fine-tuned adjustment here. A couple shouts out here in the chat. We got a lot of people joining us in the chat. And again, I'm just trying to catch up with everything. So hello and a thank you to our friend Buster out there in Scotland. He says hello, Carey, Amara, everyone in the chat. All the best from Bonnie, Scotland. Temperature in Edinburgh, 47 degrees Fahrenheit or 8.3 degrees Celsius. He says, I just popped in to say hello. I will catch up tomorrow. Thank you, Buster. Martin Hogg. I know Martin watches both of us. He joins us from Scotland. Or is it Ireland?
I was going to say Scotland. Not sure I'm right, though.
I think it's Scotland. Martin contributes £4.99. He said this is for Coke, Carey, just to keep you going. Thanks for all you do. Thank you, Martin. And Mark Gaines joining us from Northern Ireland with a £20 super chat. Says hello, Carey, Mara, and everyone in the chat. Thank you, Mark. Welcome in. And I'm not going to go through the whole list of everybody joining, but just to say welcome. And we are going to do basically an Ask Me Anything, preferably with the questions regarding tech or related to what we do. And we'll do our best to provide you answers, technical solutions, maybe share a little bit about some of the technical issues we've struggled with lately, or ones that stick, that left scars. We might share those stories with you. And, whatever Doug wants to talk about too. So what's on your mind, Doug? Where would you like to start?
Oh, my mind is a blank slate at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I guess I had a client contact me this morning as far as looking back into recent history. I'd I'd like to find a reasonable way to solve this. What had happened most likely is that those stories that'll show up, like MSN has them, Yahoo has them, these panels that you click on to see whatever those stories are. I find many times those have been overtaken by the fake virus warning messages, where it gives you an audio, scary sounding audio coming over, and a whole bunch of pop-up windows. All you have to do is restart the computer, or even just close the browser and reopen the browser and not click on that same thing again. It's a fake virus alert, but sometimes you can't click on anything, and that was the case for him. So I told him to press down the power button, hold it down for 10 seconds so the computer turns off. So he claims to have done that, and then he turns it on again, and they came right back. Well, what happened, as I connected remotely to his computer and figured out, is that he pressed the power button until the screen went blank and then let go of it, and his power button was configured to go to standby mode. So when he pressed the power button again, it just came right back on. I identified that by looking at Task Manager and the CPU screen to see how long it's been since the computer was restarted. And it had been 6 days. So we did a restart, and then I trained him how to in fact, we didn't do the restart. Instead, I trained him for this because he had the messages come up again. So I said, hold down the power button. Don't let go of it for 10 full seconds. And I'm going to count the seconds. So you just press down the power button. Tell me when you've done, when you're holding it. I will start counting. And then I give him a little bit past 10 seconds. Okay, you can let go of the power button now. And then start the computer up. And those messages are all gone. Because that actually turns it off. Then I went and changed his button settings so that when he presses the power button, instead of standby mode, he gets actual shut off. This is a laptop computer. He never takes it anywhere. It's always at his desk. So he doesn't need sleep mode. He doesn't need hibernate mode. So I want the power button to actually do a shutdown.
And is this a customer you've had for a while?
Yes.
And is this the first time that particular problem ever happened?
No.
Oh.
He's had it before, and I have trained him on this, forcing the computer off before, and he thought he had done that, but he didn't hold it down for the full 10 seconds. Now he's in his mid 90s.
Whoa.
But he's still pretty good.
That's fantastic that he's embracing the technology and such, that, he was probably in his 40s before he even, at the earliest, touched his first home computer.
That could be.
Yeah.
But
so a lot of people in their 40s, they're like, oh, that's all that new stuff, and then that kind of stays for the rest of their lives. So every once in a while you get what we call a digital immigrant, and they embrace it. And I think it's awesome.
Yeah, he actually has 3 of his own computers for himself. Before his wife passed, she had a computer too, and he used to travel to Ethiopia. But he's stopped doing the traveling, but he's still involved with the water projects over there.
Wow. Even in his 90s, he's still doing
that.
Wow.
Yes.
We've got a couple questions here in the chat. Will the Windows 11 key from SCD key work on a virtual machine? Why would you activate Windows on a virtual machine? That reminds me. Why activate Windows at all? I mean, so what if you don't?
Depends upon what they're doing with the virtual machine. I have been interested in doing that myself, although I haven't actually done it. But if you want the customization features, obviously, but I think to your point, a lot of people may not realize how much you can do with a non-activated Windows.
With a virtual machine, to answer the question, yes, it will activate. The problem is it may not, every time you reset that virtual machine, you may lose your activation every single time. So unless you're going to set up a virtual machine and leave it alone and never like reset that particular VM, it'll stay activated. But the minute you reset it, it becomes a different virtual machine. And then the problem is now it looks like a separate computer. It's a virtual computer. So you can use a real license code to access a virtual pretend computer. But the minute you reset that or create another pretend computer to replace the first pretend computer, which would be like a reset, then you have another computer you need a license for. On the other hand, if you never buy a Windows 11 or even a Windows 10 license, Windows 10 and Windows 11 are free. Let's just be clear on this. They are free. They have always been free. There is nothing that I am aware of, and feel free to correct me, that Windows will prevent you from doing in any productivity task. The only thing I'm aware of is you can't customize the Windows. How badly do you want to change your wallpaper? How badly do you want to customize certain desktop icons? If that's worth the price of activation, sorry, were you raising your hand?
Yeah, I was raising my hand. I think, what? Don't raise
Is
my
your head
hand.
hurting?
No, such a Doug, such a Doug. No, but I was going to throw in one other thing. Is if they're making any kind of a training videos and they don't want the watermark to be visible, that would be another piece of it.
Yeah, if you're like so intolerant that you can't see right now, I'll give you an example. I had an opportunity to pay $50 for a month of StreamYard use so I could broadcast in 1080 and get rid of the StreamYard logo in the upper right corner of today's video. Or I could use it for free at the highest resolution of 720 and a watermark. Guess which one I picked?
I'm going to guess you did not pay the license.
I would have bought a month's license if I was going to use StreamYard more than 5 hours in 30 days.
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
but for you and I hanging out, look, you're a lovely man. I'm sure you look great in 1080, even 4K. On the other hand, I would prefer the lower resolution. It makes me more attractive.
Yeah, says the person who's broadcasting in 4K.
Well, but I'm not really. I mean,
not
not
right
today.
now. You're not. Not right
But
now.
the
You're
focus
not.
isn't supposed to be on me. It's supposed to be like on computers, so everybody can see that. Are you buying any of this?
Yeah, you're showing. You're trying to show the detail of the computers, not yourself. I get it.
That's the excuse I give.
Uh-huh.
I don't want to look at myself in the mirror in full resolution. I can't imagine what anybody else would. However, StreamYard works just fine for it's up to 5 hours, I want to say, for free at 720. And it's not going to record the session like StreamYard records my sessions, but I record my own sessions. StreamYard's a fantastic service. I really like it, but it doesn't really benefit me unless I'm trying to stream to multiple sites like Twitter and Facebook all at the same time. And it also is really, really beneficial when I want to bring guests on. It's so much easier to configure and to control than OBS. But in the meantime, Windows 10, Windows 11, activation. Why activate it? So customizations, that's it. There's no timeout period. There's nothing that, it's not like a trial of Microsoft Office that says you have a certain amount of time remaining before you have to buy it, or it just isn't going to work anymore. Windows 10 and Windows 11 have never, ever functioned that way. So yeah, unless somebody in the chat has another thing I might be leaving out with regards to not activating, I'm not sure why you would want to activate in a virtual machine, but yes, you can.
Yeah. Now, one other idea there, and it's just reaching to come up with something else, but I suspect you probably can't connect to a domain server if you're not activated. But who would have a domain server and be trying to squeeze out a, well, I guess if they want their virtual machine to be able to log into a domain server, maybe that would be another issue for it. And that's plausible. Somebody in the IT department might be wanting to do that.
I think all of that functions the same. I don't think just because you activate it, you can't log. To the best of my knowledge, it's just customization. It's not functionality. So
Okay.
as far as I know, certain customizations, not all, but certain customizations can't be done without activation. I could be mistaken. I haven't needed to log into a domain server in a long time, but it's my understanding you can, as far as I know, I mean, I don't think you can encrypt with BitLocker, but you might be able to as long as you have a Microsoft account. I'm uncertain, but I think generally speaking, and I think the point I'm trying to get across here is why activate it if you don't need to? So if you find out there is something you need to use the computer for, the VM for, that requires activation, then yeah. And then I would make a backup copy of that VM just in case you have to reset it. You just restore back your VM file and it should stay activated that way. How's that?
Yeah, now, let's see. John Downey is the one that asked that question. And then later, he says he's trying to run Microsoft SQL on a Mac in a virtual machine. How's that connected to a virtual machine? I think he's bringing up a different subject there.
Well, if he's running the virtual machine on a Mac and he wants that virtual machine to be Windows 11 and he wants to activate Windows 11, I don't think that's anything to do with Microsoft SQL. I don't think so. But I've never tried and I've not really done anything with SQL. So I honestly don't. If anybody in the chat knows, please, we'd love to hear from you, not just with your questions, but also with your suggestions as well.
Okay, so then later he says he's trying to run MS SQL on a Mac virtual machine. Well, Mac virtual machine is not going to need a Windows license if it is truly a Mac virtual machine. But if it's a virtual Windows machine on a Mac, then you might be interested in the license. Oh, yeah, this will get your head hurting.
Yeah.
It's out.
You're supposed to know what he meant.
Yeah, well, sometimes it takes a little while before when they're writing their messages, they understand what they mean. Might take a little while for us to get there.
I would say to John, install your Windows 11, regardless of the interpretation of this. Just install it on your VM and run it, and then see if it needs activation. I'm pretty sure it's not going to.
Try it.
If it does, then yes.
Then he says Windows machine on a Mac. Now, see there again, he left out the word. It'd be a little more comfortable if he says Windows virtual machine on a Mac. I think that's what he's saying. And then, but yeah, if you put a license code on it, like Carey said, you stand the chance of losing that license code, not being able to use it on anything else. If you keep that Windows virtual machine saved and go back and reutilize that Windows virtual machine, I think your activation should be fine. Yes. Jason says, why are we talking about a Mac? Well, we're talking about Mac because that's what John asked. So there.
Why are we talking about Jason? That's Planet Cryos joining us there. Welcome in.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Hello, Jason.
I know him well enough.
Planet
that I can
Cryos.
give him a little tab.
He's a good guy. Now, I did see another question from somebody. I lost it.
I got one here from David Graham. I have a PC that's on the same network and work group as and all the sharing's turned on, but it refuses to see other computers on the network. The only difference is it's on Wi-Fi and the others are wired.
That's not a problem.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it can be on Wi-Fi. Some can be Wi-Fi, some can be wired. You got to make sure they're all on a private network profile, because on a public network profile, you won't be able to do that. The default firewall settings in Windows blocks that. So then the next thing I would do is check out what the IP address is for those other computers and be sure you can ping them by opening a command prompt, type ping space, and then the IP address of those other computers. And then when you say refuses to see the other computers, how are you trying to see the other computers? My favorite way is to do Windows key R, 2 backslashes, then the name of that other computer that you would get from system properties. Or you could even also do // and the IP address of the other computer. If those other computers don't have any actual shared folders, you still might not see them. They have to have something on them that's actually been flagged as shared. That's my initial response.
Well, here's my approach. Remember, we're both in business, doing this a long time. Doug has his approach. I have my approach. You maybe take a little from both, or take what you want, leave the rest. But I'd make sure on the Wi-Fi network, I'm not on a guest network. Number one, verify you're not on the guest network. Number two, when you go to browse the network, are you getting an error, or are you just getting a blank network screen? Number three, I have videos walking you through how to set up the folder sharing and the network sharing and all those details that you can walk through step by step. They're a long video because there's a lot of options. And then I have a Windows 11 fix that you can use PowerShell commands or the gpedit command to, if the fact that you're let's say you're seeing the shares, but it won't let you in. It says you don't have permissions, things like that. That is a Windows 11 security update. And I show you how you can bypass the authentication and enable guest mode that doesn't require a login. So there's lots of different settings depending on what the actual problem is. So what helps me is if I understand what you're doing and how the computer is responding, instead of trying to explain it in technical terms, explain it like you're just, I click on a button and I'm expecting to see this, but instead I'm seeing that. Then I think that makes it a little more clear, for at least for me, to understand what the problem is. And this is why I love remote access so much, is I can just go see the problem, because oftentimes there is an interpretation issue with how it's described or what the customer thinks the issue is. And by looking at it, quite often I can identify it much, much quicker. But yes, if you say, here's what I'm doing, I'm clicking on, let's say, the network in File Explorer. I am expecting to see other computers on the network. I'm not. Or maybe you are, but you just can't access them. This kind of level of detail is so important because you're asking for a level of detail in the answer. So anyway, those are my thoughts. And we do have videos that walk you through everything from how to file share, just to double check all your settings. And of course, making sure you are not on a guest network, because, or some wireless routers have a little button that says wireless isolation. And if that little checkbox is checked, you just created a guest network is what you did. Because wireless isolation means anybody on the Wi-Fi cannot see anybody else on the network, and nor can anybody on the network see them. It's typically what you get in a hotel or, public Wi-Fi spot. So depending on the router you've got, it could be a simple checkbox you've not unchecked. So that would be my first go-to.
I'll add a couple other things. Is when he says that and refuses to see the other computers, if he's using File Explorer for that and clicking on the network icon, I've never experienced that to work very well. And I don't know if they're still using the same technology as Windows 95, but they use this functionality in work groups called Master Browser, where the computers would negotiate or argue between themselves who's going to be the master browser, and it would be the one that the other computers would look to see what's available on the network. So I don't currently have a lot of recent experience using File Explorer for that, simply because I never found it to be very good. So that's where I was saying that I use Windows key R and 2 backslashes and the name of the computer that you're trying to connect to. The other thing that in all of my peer-to-peer networking, I always have passwords on the computers. I very rarely will have a computer at a client's office that does not have a password. And peer-to-peer networking expects you to have passwords. If you want to do without passwords, then you have little extra hoops to jump through. And that's one of the videos that Carey was mentioning that he has that helps with that. Don't see any further comments from David yet for giving us more clarification.
And Scott in the chat recommends occasionally just unplugging the router and turning it back on again can fix problems like this.
Okay, that brings me to thinking, okay, did this used to work for you? Do you have peer-to-peer working for other computers and it's just this one computer or these two computers that won't talk to each other? So that kind of information could also help.
Absolutely. I'm under the impression that he had a network wired and running, and at some point, and again, I'm under the impression, I could be completely wrong in my interpretation, but the way he's describing it, it sounds like he has added a wireless network, a wireless computer. He's added a computer wirelessly onto his network, and for some reason, that isn't seeing the wired computers. But I'm assuming that he added it. Your question is an excellent one, because was it working before and something changed? We just had update Tuesday, you know.
Right. So that's very important. Okay, with still nothing follow up from David, right below David's question, there's Crazy Larry Watson. What do you mean let's see, oh, wait a minute. No, I'm sorry. I thought I saw another question for him. And what do you mean?
Oh, yeah, no. I see what you're talking about. There was some other.
I'm going back to see his prior entries because I thought he had a question.
He does have a question. It says, I need an ultra-fast processing computer, good for always having 30 tabs open for quick referencing. How often to replace a computer before it gets slow?
Oh, there it is. I need an ultra-fast processing computer, good for always having 30 tabs in a browser. It's not a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
For how often to replace a computer before it gets slow? A computer gets slow not over time, but over trauma. What have you done to it? What software have you used that might have conflicts with other software on your computer? If your computer, the software that you're using, what you're doing with the computer hasn't introduced a problem, it should keep running pretty consistently over time, in my experience. So that's the second part of his question. The first part, ultra-fast processing, good for always having 30 tabs open. I don't find 30 tabs to be all that challenging.
Chris Garrett said, I called you Dave. Did I? He's saying his name's Doug,
called
not
me Dave?
I don't know. He says, I called you Dave, I guess. Sorry about that. Maybe I was talking to Dave Betts.
I don't know
that's
that.
One of the Dougs.
Dave. Crazy Larry Watson said, I forgot to say hello, Carey and Dave. So I think Chris was referring to his comment. Dave's not here, Chris. Dave's not here. I can't do the impressions good.
No, man, I am Dave. What?
But I think I saw a few questions in here from Crazy.
Yeah, I'm scrolling up as well because there was some early activity as I was kind of setting the foundation for us. And yes, if you have questions for us, please don't hesitate to put them into the chat room, and we will do our best to provide answers. And watch the chat room for answers from other members of our community who are often very, very helpful. And sometimes the way questions are phrased, they can be interpreted one way by me, one way by Doug, and another way by somebody in the chat. Come to find out, the person in the chat got it, got the interpretation correct.
Yeah, here's another one.
Oh. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, here's another one from Larry at 1:08 p.m. So that's the way you can see where I'm looking.
Okay.
Question, is it possible to custom build a laptop, weatherproof, shockproof computer, or tweak another one or use it as a base? I would buy one that's already manufactured as weatherproof. Those are out there. They're kind of heavy. They cost more. That's, I think, the direction I would look for it. Then I was thinking, what about some kind of do they make weatherproof enclosures where you can still use a laptop through the enclosure? I don't know about that. That's my response.
My question would be, once again, what's ending up happening with some of these questions is they've already concluded what they need, and you haven't told us what it is you're trying to do. It
He
may be
did
that what did
earlier.
he?
He did. I think his first comment going back to 1:07 p.m. I am launching more professionally a weather broadcasting station live on the internet. Is that what he's doing? Does that mean he's
Yeah,
going to have the laptop out in the weather?
I will be outside in bad weather in harsh conditions at various events and
Ah,
various highway accidents, which I do many of as a first responder.
wow.
And so you want this laptop just to have internet access? I mean, I'm assuming you're not broadcasting.
No, he did
Uh,
say broadcasting, weather broadcasting station. Is he
I'm just
is
trying to
he
understand what
mixing
that has.
is he mixing different activities together, or are these all the same pursuit?
I don't know why you need a laptop for that.
Broadcast, well, he's at highway accidents, so that's going to be a laptop. But
You're going to
broadcasting,
broadcast somebody's accident? That doesn't seem right.
and he also says as a first responder. So maybe would he need to broadcast, like it'd be maybe a major thing where he's needing to broadcast to other agent first responder agencies? I
If
just had
you're
a
a
browser
first,
crash.
but if you're a first responder, what's your job? Is your job to be a media reporter as a first responder? Is your job to actually assist something on site and you just want to give a quick update? Is your job just to be there to give updates? And if so, why not just use a cell phone? Why not just use a tablet? Why haul around a big laptop computer? I don't. There are tough books. Dell makes them now,
Yeah.
and they're about $3,000+ and they're built like a tank. So depending on your budget, they do make, I wouldn't say entirely weatherproof, but weather resistant and military grade tough books. Yeah, I see here. He says, I'm launching more professionally a weather broadcasting station live on the internet. Yeah, I just don't know why you need a laptop for that.
Oh, okay. So is this actually, are you actually like starting a YouTube entertainment channel rather than being official first responder? I'm launching Crazy Larry Live. That sounds like a YouTube channel. On location, current weather as it happens, been broadcasting on our local radio station 5 years. Oh, okay. So is this in conjunction with the radio station? You're sending your signal to the radio station, they're broadcasting it. Broadcasting video on the radio? No, you're doing your audio through the laptop to the radio station, I'm thinking.
No, I would just use a phone. Honestly, the phone's got the camera on it. The phone's got the internet connection on it. The phone's already somewhat IPS rated, and you can put a weatherproof case on it. It's a lot more portable. You're going to get a longer battery life. It costs less money. It seems like, for me anyway, if I needed a bigger screen, I'd go with a tablet in a waterproof case. I wouldn't go with a laptop if I had to go on site in dangerous conditions. That's just something that's just not going to end well. I'm just picturing all these various scenes where perhaps the wind is blowing at 70 miles an hour. There's nowhere you're going to set that laptop down that it's not going to take off on its own with the wind. So if that's the case, you're going to have it in the car. You know, however you're getting on scene, you could just sit in the car. And if you're just going to sit in the car, you just use the laptop you've got now, but you're still going to have some kind of a connection to the internet strong enough to broadcast. And it may be that the cellular towers are affected by the weather in that area, and you may not be able to do this anyway. So depending on the severity of the weather, you would likely be inside the car. If you're inside the car, weatherproofing of the laptop is irrelevant. You're going to be outside in a storm with a laptop? I'm just trying to picture how that works. That's all. Jason Lewis contributes $5. He goes, I told my suitcases there would be no vacations this year. And now I'm deciding, now I'm dealing with emotional baggage. But
I often refer to a computer that's sluggish as having emotional damage.
Emotional damage. Oh, we'll keep scrolling. We're looking to interact with you guys today. We want to encourage you to reach out to us, and you want to share some experiences with us. Have you bought a new computer, one of these mini PCs like I've been talking about? And what do you think of it? Or have you had a recent issue you resolved? If so, what was it? And how did you resolve it? We love hearing stories like this. If you have questions specifically for Doug or myself, just go ahead and say as much in the chat. We will do our best to address each and every one of you.
Your comments in chat will be more noticeable if you use the @ symbol and then putting Carey or myself. And for you to be able to see that type ahead, I need to say something in chat once in a while, because if when you type the @ symbol and then start typing Carey's channel name, CAR, you'll see that pop up as a suggestion. But if I haven't put anything into chat recently, that won't work for me. So it's about 5 minutes apparently that the active participants drop out. So I'll try to remember to put in a comment in chat once in a while. So you can type the @ symbol DO, and then it should suggest my name. No, excuse me, @ symbol LI. My channel name is Live Windows Training. It's not Doug Betts.
Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To is another peer. There's not many of us,
Yes.
And he's in England. So we've got our British counterpart joining us today. Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To joins us in the chat. And again, if you like my content, if you like Doug's content, you're absolutely going to love Mike's Unboxing. So be sure and check him out. Just a friendly shout out to him. And thanks for popping in and saying hello to Mike's Unboxing.
Yeah, and Jason points out that the @ symbol technique does not work on a cell phone. That's correct, but try this. Go up higher into chat where you see the person's name that you're wanting to respond to. Hold your finger on it for a moment so you get to select. And if you can, it's a nuisance, I know. If you can select that whole channel name and then choose copy, then you can go down and type the @ symbol and paste as a way to do it with a cell phone. Otherwise, you have to type it all the way out, and you have to do it correctly, and it's a nuisance.
Corey Man Zero says, I'm very amazed at how my 3 mini PCs are holding up as a server. 2 are running Proxmox, 1 is Ubuntu, Docker containers, running services like Plex, Pi-hole, Netbox, and Ansible, AWX, etc. Yeah, I mean, I think they're perfect for doing that kind of stuff.
They are computers. They are full-blown, real, legitimate computers. They're just not big.
Let's see. Scrolling through the chat, we're looking for your comments and questions that we can address during today's live show. It really stinks when people come in the last 2 minutes of the show and they want to interact with us, and we're out of time. This is the time to do it. So we certainly look forward to your comments and questions here to help guide us during today's show. Otherwise, Doug and I are going to talk about something you may not be interested in. It's not our fault.
Marshall McKinney at the end of chat. Hi, I'm going to be building a new PC soon. What do you think about the quality of the Super Flower Lead X3 power supplies? I have never heard of it. Out of my league. That's a Carey question.
I know Diamond Flower. I don't know Super Flower. If I was going to be building a new computer, and I've built a few, I would be very careful over the selection of parts. And I'm saying that with PTSD from yesterday's show, on our members only show. I ran into a number of obstacles, one after the other, where normally it's pretty easy to build a computer. It just all snaps together like Legos. But then when you get into what I call a hot dog build, hot dogs, I like the flavor of hot dogs. Do you want to see how they're made? Because you may not want to eat them anymore. Well, hot dog builds are builds where you're using cheaper or lesser known components, or components that are sourced from questionable places like eBay or Temu or AliExpress. And you think it's all going to go together smoothly and work fine while also saving money. Usually that's the motive. And just as I demonstrated in yesterday's show, I got very frustrated doing what should have been very simple things. Parts of the case would not go back together because parts of the case were slightly bent, and I had to get a hammer, like taking a dent out of a car, on a $200 case. This case is not cheap. Normally, the more money you spend, the less likely you're going to have this problem. But that's not a hard, fast rule. So you want to research your parts to make sure, if this matters to you, that you just want to put it together without frustration. I don't use other power supplies other than the same manufacturers you will see on this channel: Asus, EVGA, NZXT. I've used a couple of Game Max power supplies for builds that are experimental because those might be good, but I haven't decided yet. We've had a couple of brands I absolutely stay away from. I stay away from Seasonic because I think they're overpriced and unreliable. I know that shocks a lot of people. It's just been my experience. It's double insult that you paid more thinking you're getting something better, only to have it fail when the cheaper thing would have been fine. That's why I say there's no hard, fast rule here, but it's very specific to the component and who makes it and what that reputation of that component is. But the other thing is, maybe you're in another country and we don't even have that power supply, which is why Doug and I are unfamiliar with it. So if Mike's Unboxing is still in there, I'd be curious what he thinks as well in the chat room, if he's familiar with it.
I have a question for you, Carey, about your experience yesterday. I know you like to buy the parts and put them together and figure it out. Though there's some websites out there, and I can't even name it, where you can input the components that you're wanting to buy, and it will tell you if they work well together. I'm curious about if you were to try that with those components that you had yesterday, would it have cautioned you about that? And most significantly, I'm thinking of it because of the value to people who watch your channel and want to build on their own computer. And I saw you shaking your head no. So you're saying it would not have cautioned about that.
So PC Part Picker, for example, will tell you if the components will fit. It won't tell you if it'll be difficult or easy, just that they fit. So for example, the power supply fits into the case, but the power supply cables are not fitting through the routing holes of the rear of the motherboard without using excessive force. So does that fit? Yes, it fits. But the effort it takes, it should just be sliding a cable through a hole with no effort. Instead, I'm fidgeting and pushing and then jammed up my thumb really hard. Once I got it through, my thumb went through the other side and hit something, and it hurt. Still hurts today. For a simple cable that should have slipped through a hole, that's a standard size, that's industry standard from a case manufacturer who's been making cases for years. That was a $200 case. It wasn't something cheap they built. And it's one of the worst cases I've ever worked in my life. Do you really want to open this can of worms? He's winding me up.
Yeah.
Because once I start going off, I mean, there was one problem after. Because you think, oh, well, that's just this one little thing. And then it just leads me to the next one.
All right.
Yeah. He's like, enough. Mike's Unboxing said Superflower are a bit of a forgotten brand here in the UK, but generally they were good units. Okay.
John Downey's question: should I always have two accounts on your PC, one standard and one administrator? You cannot have any accounts on my PC. Are you kidding me? Fine. It took a little bit of delay there before I got a laugh from Carey. Okay.
It's a hand grenade joke. You kind of pull a pin and throw it. Then you have to, sometimes they're duds. I know.
Yeah, and as far as I know, you're off reading something else and not really paying
Well,
attention.
I'm looking at the chat over here, but I'm looking at the camera to look at you.
All right.
Well,
Yeah.
pretend like I'm looking at you. But you didn't answer his question.
So, no, I didn't. Should I always have two accounts? Here's what he's actually asking on his own computer. Should he have a standard and an administrator? I do not follow that practice. The people who do follow that practice, they're doing that because they, in case somebody were to surreptitiously access the account that they're actually working on right now, like if somebody were able to, if you were looking for tech support, for instance, and you contacted somebody to provide tech support to you, but you're not really comfortable about them. So if you were on a standard account, that would prevent them from being able to alter something about your computer, be able to stop them from altering some things. Also, if you're on a standard user account and you get some kind of virus or you get some kind of a malware infecting your computer, it's only going to be able to do things that a standard user would be able to do. I don't follow that practice because I haven't experienced pain by using administrator accounts. And some technicians will take issue with my next comment that when I set up computers for my clients, they also have local administrator rights. I don't restrict them to be standard users. If that was causing me trouble, then I would change that policy. It has not caused me any trouble. So it makes it a whole lot easier for me when I go over to their computer or connect remotely to be able to make changes without having to re-sign in with administrator credentials. There.
Well, I have a one size fits all for any computer problem you could ever possibly have. Do you know what it is? Make a backup. If you just made a backup, none of these questions, that kind of thing doesn't matter. What if my hard drive died? Doesn't matter. What if I get a virus? How do I remove the virus? Restore your backup. How do I recover from ransomware? Restore your backup. My computer got stolen. How do I get everything back from it? Restore your backup. Every computer problem you can imagine is fixed with the same solution. And yet people go into all these details on how to remove a virus. And I'm like, what? Just restore your backup. Why are you working so hard? People go to send their hard drives in for data recovery. It's $500-$600. It's maybe they'll get the data back. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll get some of it. It'll be a couple of weeks. You could have just done your own data recovery, and you could have done it for free and had it instantaneously with 100% guarantee of recovery. So I am going to keep repeating myself until I'm dead because people just aren't getting it. Just make a backup and then let them do whatever they're going to do. Now, when it comes to the whole standard account versus administrator account, I'm with Doug. All of my clients get administrator accounts. I'm not doing maintenance on two different accounts. That's twice the amount of work. And the customer doesn't want to pay that. Like that's going to be a tough thing to sell to the customer. You're going to pay me more now, just in case you might have to pay me more later. In other words, you're going to pay me regardless to maintain two different accounts on Windows and every computer you've got, just in case if we do it the other way and just give everybody administrator and you only pay me to correct what if something should happen because of the administrator account. Which way is cheaper? Which way is less frustrating? Which way is less complicated? I like to keep everything as simple as possible. Make your backups. Who cares? Put Malwarebytes on it. Put something you trust as malware protection. Windows Defender is great. The paid Malwarebytes is often on sale at Newegg for $5 a license for a year. You get like a 5 PC license, one license that can be used on 5 PCs for like $25 when it goes on sale. It's so inexpensive, and it's not 100%, there's no such thing as 100% protection. But it's a very effective deterrent that helps train the employee when they click on something they shouldn't have. And when the Malwarebytes catches it and it pops up and says, we're blocking this, it's teaching them. So I don't have to. That's super cheap for a year. Doug, what do you do in that regard? Do you have an anti-malware or an antivirus outside of Windows Defender that you set up or recommend for your clients?
No, I'm completely full court with Windows Defender or whatever they're calling it these days. And backups. I have
Who would have
usually
thought?
the backups are scheduled as a full backup a certain period, and then differential backups on another time period and incremental on another time period. And I have many times connected remotely to a client's computer to deal with an issue that they're having. And if it's not coming to a fix reasonably soon, I have performed a full restore remotely. And I have my system set up to where that is very doable. I know how it goes, and I can. I've done that remotely many times to solve an issue. And then we expect the issue to be cleared up after that restore. It's not always the case. It depends upon what's actually causing the symptom, like, or what the problem is. If it has to do with a problem with perhaps printing or accessing some other resources, the problem might still exist afterwards. But by doing that restore operation, that tells me the problem is not on the subject computer. It's something that has changed elsewhere outside of that. So I even use restores as a troubleshooting step to figure out, is this problem from this computer, or is it happening due to something else in the environment?
That's a good point. It's like a safety net. And on top of that, like Martin Hogg is asking, like a follow-up here, isn't the admin account sometimes hidden to avoid unauthorized tampering? Well, that may be the reasoning, but I myself disagree that, well, first of all, who's tampering? Who are we talking about? The person's, if we have a computer in a public library, do we want that to have administrator access? No, but we probably don't want to run Windows Pro or Home on that. We probably want to run Windows S Edition, where you can only load applications from the Microsoft Store, and that's it. And we want to be able to reset it very quickly. When a user is done using it, we're able to reset it and restore from an image like a cyber cafe, gaming center might do. But when Doug and when we take on clients, they're paid employees. They're not paid. What would you call that? Where you're just causing harm on the inside. They're not there to stir up trouble. So I'm trying to figure out, like, when you say hidden to avoid unauthorized tampering, you mean like from an online attack, or do you mean at the keyboard? Because the question is, how did they get online to begin with, right? Regardless if it's an Amazon, if it's an admin account, or if it's a local account, if it's unauthorized, how did the unauthorized user get access to it? Because if it's an employee, that's not going to be an employee very long. If it's in a public consumer shared space, like maybe it's a computer in the business center of a hotel, maybe it's on a cruise ship and they have these little cyber cafes, then no, it wouldn't have administrator access, but we'd always be resetting it regardless. Is it an online attack? And if so, then you've got an infection. You've got a hole somewhere. You got to patch the hole. That's more important than who's steering the ship. If the bad guy's steering the ship because he's got steering access, admin access, how'd he get on the ship? So my focus isn't on the symptom. I'm trying to focus on the cause. What do you think?
My mind has been on a little variation on this question about standard and administrator, because there's another form of hiding accounts. When you're at the sign-in window, and on the bottom left-hand side, you see the different accounts that are available on this computer. I do have some occasions where I might have a administrator account or some other, sometimes I call it a backdoor account. Oftentimes the username is admin, but I don't want it to show up there because I don't want the person signing in inadvertently or even poking around at that. When they sign in with their own local user account, it is in pretty much all cases, an administrator level account, but I have this second account, and sometimes I hide it so they can't see it as a backdoor in case they bork their user account somehow, or it gets locked out or some other problem. If I can sign in with a different user account, I can use that to reset their password. But I typically don't want them poking around there on their own because they might mess up that side too. And those accounts I can hide that so that they don't see that on that list of users.
I was just Googling the mention of deep freeze. I was just trying to figure out if that was from Microsoft or it's a third party. Do you know what the software?
Yes, I do.
Freeze?
Yes. In fact, I think I should be able to bring up a link for it. I think that's the right name that I have set up on computers. And what that would do is allow me to freeze a computer such that anything a person does on the computer during a user session is wiped out when they restart the computer, and it sets it back to the way it was. I think that was a utility that I want to say Zavi Manor turned me on to. I've got so many bookmarks around here that to find that, and it had the word freeze in it. Let's see, what's our resources? Tech resources, maybe. See, I don't have a way to search through all my bookmarks, or do I? Can I go to my bookmark manager and search through them for the word freeze? I've never tried that. Bookmarks and lists.
That was from Photo Mix Media in the chat, and mentioning it's deep freeze often used in educational institutions exactly for this. But yeah, in other words, I guess the simple point I'm trying to make is that instead of looking at admin versus standard, I look to solve this problem or handle it in a different manner. That's not the process that I have ever used, because again, when you have multiple accounts, you've got to go through each account for maintenance when it comes to temp files and things like that. Everything's got to get done. And it's a pain in the butt. It's bad enough if I got to maintain 100 computers. But if I got to maintain 100 computers with 200 users or 200 profiles, I have about doubled my workload. So then I got to charge for that. And at some point, month after month, it's just ongoing, never-ending maintenance. It's just cheaper to get somebody their own computer and lock it down and or buy the software or make the backup. You know what I mean? Versus from my perspective, from changing an administrator to a standard and ending up with those two profiles. That's the way I see it.
Well, I don't do any maintenance on the other user accounts. Like when I have a backdoor account, there's no maintenance I need to do for that. What were you referring to about maintenance on the second account?
Just things like temp files, some software updates that are specific to a user. You've got to go to the other user to get the update there, because it'll say, do you want this for all users? Do you want it for a specific user? Windows update, that'll be universal. That won't be profile specific. Sometimes they may have two users sharing a computer. So they're using Outlook on their profile. The other person's using Outlook on their profile. It's a hairy mess. And by the way, the problem when you have multiple users sharing a computer, and I understand I'm kind of taking this to a different perspective where you've got an administrator account that isn't used except by the administrator for maintenance. And the person using it is just one person, but you've locked them out of doing anything. And I'm saying, well, if you've got two people that are set up with access to the machine, when something happens, it's always the other person who caused it. It's never them. And then one other issue is the number of support calls that I will get when the standard user needs to do something and the administrator password pops up and said, you must put in the administrator password to do whatever you're doing. Now, on one hand, it's good because maybe I'm stopping them from doing it. On the other hand, maybe they're just trying to add a printer, and now they've got me involved when they didn't need me, so I can enter the little code to give them permission to do that. It's just more work. from my perspective. And if it's more work, I have to charge the customer more. If I have to charge the customer more, my competitors may not seem, the competitors may seem cheaper, depending on how much service somebody's got to pay for all this. So I try to personally keep it cheap for my customers, keep it simple, not overcomplicated. And then if I use a password, what do I do? Use the same password on everything? Is that really secure for all of my customers and all of their machines? Or do I change it up? And then I've got to keep a record of which machine and which customer, so I know what the password is. No.
Well, I do that.
Which one?
I do. I keep records, and the passwords that I use for myself for a backdoor for a client, I will use the same password across all my backdoor account for all of those computers in their company, but I won't use the same backdoor password for another company. But I am a documentation maniac. I have massive amount of documentation records for my clients going back multiple decades. And so that's something that I was just part of my nature, my training through other companies that I worked for in the past, and it stuck with me. So, but there was something else just on my. Oh yes, in regards to a standard user account, I do have one environment where I have that set up where they do have standard user accounts, and it's the security desk at 3 different facilities where it is a manned security desk, and they issue visitors badges. The sign in that the security desk personnel are given is a standard user. They do not get administrator credentials on that. And that was a decision discussed with my client when they were concerned about the security desk personnel can be sitting at that desk for long periods of times with nobody around outside of normal business hours, and they just wanted the extra level of security to prevent them from mucking around and things that they should not be doing. So we set up those standard user accounts there. When I connect remotely to the computer, I can sign in with my admin credentials and join into their standard user session. If I try to do something that requires administrator rights, it pops up a authentication window, and I can type in the password without them seeing it sitting at the desk. So that only came to my mind because I was thinking, is there any place that I actually have that in operation for a reason? And yeah, that's the one place at 3 different facilities, all for the similar purpose. I think that's all I needed to say about that.
John Downey was just asking if standard access prevents accidental changes or loading malware.
To some degree, not completely. It only prevents malware or changes that require administrator credentials. There are some things an end user can do that does not require administrator credentials and might cause a problem. For something very simple, let's take this. They could right-click on the desktop and change the view to turn off the display of desktop icons. The next person comes on and they have no icons to click on, and they don't know to go look. So, that's not a big harm, but it can cause trouble to the person who's sitting at that computer.
Thank you for that answer. Crazy Larry with another question. Is it possible to recover data off of a Mac OS hard drive when the computer says it cannot read the disk? I carry the computer in the back of my Bob trailer, and if it's scratched. So I don't know anything about Mac. I don't like Apple. I don't like anything about it. It's overpriced, too restricted. And I like control and freedom. So for me, it just is not a good alignment for nerd. Mac is good for everyday folks, non-technical folks especially, but technical folks, well, to a certain level of tech, you would say Linux would also be very, very nerdy, but that's why it doesn't appeal to me as a more technical nerd. So I don't know much about it, but here's what I do know. I've met with a great guy who runs a data recovery service called $300 Data Recovery. And if you go to 300ddr.com, and this is not a paid thing or a commission thing, I'm just trying to save you some money because data recovery is expensive. They have an estimate page. You explain what it is you've got, and they give you an estimated price and time. And it's one of the best data recoveries, the highest rated, over 5,000 reviews on Yelp, highest rated data recovery center. I even asked him what he was thinking when he called it $300 data recovery, because how do you change your price? Anyway, because drives have gotten bigger, the bigger the drive, there's started to add extra fees because it takes longer and it's more complex to recover. But they explain everything. It's fully transparent, the entire process, including what to expect with regards to time, estimation of success based on your description, and how much it'll approximately cost. They are fully communicative when they receive the drive. They follow up with you pretty much every day with what's going on with it, and can give you a list of all the files they're able to recover. And if you're okay with it, then the data recovery fee is as previously estimated. If they can only recover a portion of it that you're not interested in, then there's like a $100 try fee for their time, and they can dispose of the driver, send it back to you. There might be just the postage cost there. I'm not sure. Trust me, they're not getting rich off of that, but you're not committed to the recovery. If it turns out we can only get 30% of the data back, and here's a list of the files, and you don't want any of those files, you can say, never mind, and you pay the try fee, and you can say, just get rid of the drive. Because if they can't recover it, it's probably no good to pay the money to send it back to you. But that's also another option. So look through the Yelp reviews and see what they're saying. And remember, if you'd have just made a backup, you wouldn't be asking that question. I'm going to keep saying it over and over and over again, not to belittle people. I find that the more I repeat myself and the more annoying I get, the harder it is to forget what I said. Make your backups. You'll never have that question.
And eventually it might be the 235th time that somebody hears that from you, that they actually take action on it. I've got a little bit of response on Larry's question to pull out a couple other details from there. He says, is it possible to recover data off a Mac operating system hard drive? Yes. And my strongest recommendation is $300 data recovery. However, another idea here. When the computer tells it cannot read the disk. Now, that might be coming from, let's suppose if it's a secondary disk, the computer does boot up on the primary disk and it can't read the secondary disk. However, because he said Mac OS hard drive, that implies that this is the drive that has the operating system, but I don't know for sure that Larry is using that precise of wording. Now, he says, I carried the computer in the back of my Bob trailer, bad boy. But the implication there is it was working fine before moving it in the trailer. Is that really what you're saying there? Or is this a computer that had been in storage for a period of time, then you transported it in this trailer, and you're thinking it was because it was in the trailer that caused the problem? Now, the question there was it working fine just before that trip? Is it all about if it is scratched? No. It's being scratched isn't the only thing that could prevent it from being readable. If it's the case that you took the computer to the destination, plugged it in, tried to turn it on, and it failed to boot into the Mac operating system, that might be a little different issue. It might be that the operating system files are damaged in such a way that it won't start up. Did you actually give us every word of the error message that it's displaying? Because sometimes it will say something like, let's see, you said, cannot read the disk or system not present. There might be more to that message. Now, if it is just that there's a problem with booting it, you may be able to remove that drive from the computer and attach it using some USB adapter to another Mac computer, and it might just be natively accessible. You might just be able to get to those files no problem whatsoever because the data on it is fine. It was just the operating system that was damaged. From what you've told us so far, we don't know enough detail to say which way it is.
Just looking here to see if we have some more questions. We love your questions, so please don't be shy. And also look to the chat for answers as well. We have some folks that also are more familiar with Mac that might have some suggestions for you. I'm just looking through the chat. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just acknowledging Attila M's comment saying if I export my bookmarks as HTML, I can search them. Sure like to have an easier way than that.
What about just sorting them by name? Can't you sort them alphabetically?
Well, actually, no, I already did it.
Oh.
Earlier in the show, I did do that when we were talking about the freeze program. I went into the bookmarks manager in Google Chrome, and there's a search field in there. I typed the word freeze, and it took me right to 5 different bookmarks that I have that include the word freeze. So that did it easily. And so it was called Time Freeze from Tool Whiz Products is the one that I have used on. I've used those on the computers for the residents of one of the government funded elderly and disabled home residential buildings. And so that they could use these computers, and every time the computer gets restarted, everything that they did during their session is wiped out. It's almost like restoring a image backup.
Yeah, it saves a lot of labor, especially when that's a routine thing for a specific computer use. I saw a question here in the chat. Sean Boland wants to know, do I think Windows 10 end of life support in October is too soon? I think it's too late. Windows 10, for those of you who, look, time flies. I don't think many of you realize Windows 10 will be 10 years old in July. I mean, that's a long time for an operating system. We didn't go 10 years between DOS 3.3 and DOS 5 and DOS 6 and DOS 6.2 and Windows 3.1 and 3.11 for work. These things were happening every 3 years. Every 3 years we had a new OS, and Microsoft was all about every 3 years. And it all changed with Windows XP. And at the time, Windows XP was the longest an operating system had been supported by Microsoft. And by Microsoft doing that, they set a precedent. People got comfortable, and people don't like change. The older the person is, it's like a disease, and they don't like change more. They hate it more. I know I do. The older I get, I'll just speak for me. Okay. I have that disease. As a kid, I could eat up. Oh, what's new? Oh, this is cool. And then as we get older, I'm also seeing, as I get older, again, I'm going to correct that. Look at these terrible things Windows Update does. Look at how terrible this is. Look how they changed the start menu. Look how you can't do this anymore. But if you look this way, you go, oh, look how they made this better, and look how this is better. So often we're only hearing one side of the total picture. And if we take a step further back and we look both ways, we can see both the good and the bad. And it's going to move forward whether you like it or you don't. And I think that's the important thing. Whether or not you like those changes has no relevancy to anybody but you. Makes no impact on me, Microsoft, the industry. They don't care. Not interested. So if you don't like it, stop using it. Do I think Windows 10 support is ending too soon? No, it should have ended 4 years ago, in my opinion. When Windows 11 came out, people should have had a year, 2 years, I'd say 2 years, to get into Windows 11. That's after 2 years. Give it 1 year to sort of get polished and get the kinks worked out of it. Anything new, give it a year, and then give them a year to upgrade. After that, listen, if this was Apple, has Apple had an OS they've supported for 10 years? So I don't think they have. Again, I'm not an Apple person, but Apple's way is their way or the highway. So you can just go buy a new computer because we're not supporting that one anymore. And you don't hear those folks really crying victim on that. They just go spend another $3,000 and buy another. It's such a weird difference between the two worlds. So I'm looking forward to Windows 10 support finally coming to a close. But although that question was directed to me, I'd be very curious on Doug's perspective.
I like the timing that they have currently. To your point of a 2 years to switch over, the reason why I think that would have been too quick is because of the number of computers that actually need to be replaced before, that can't just upgrade to Windows 11. A lot of the other upgrade steps that we've been able to upgrade the computers that were currently in service. I don't recollect any new version of an operating system prior to this where such a significant portion of people had to get new computers. Do you? I mean, they did if their computer was really old and just not capable, but not as a published, not as a certain requirements. I don't recall any operating system having the specific requirements that 11 does. Now, I don't criticize that there are these requirements. I just say that I like that this time span was a bit longer.
When I had my 286 computer, in order to go to a 386, I had to buy a new computer. When I had my 386 computer and I wanted to go to a 46 computer, I had to buy a new computer. When I had my 46 computer and I went to a Pentium 1 or a Pentium 2 or a Pentium 3 or a Pentium 4, these were massive differences from a 286 12 megahertz to a 46 33 to a 46 DX2 66. Ooh, 66 megahertz. Do you know how much faster that is from 12? Like 6 times faster. I grew up with this stuff where it was pretty common about, again, every 3 years, you wanted a new computer. You didn't ever do it because you had to. And where you saw me wince is when you put the word that people have to. Nobody's forcing them. Nobody's forcing anybody. It's fully your choice. And if you want to stay on Windows 10 after support, there is the option to pay for the extended support for the next 12 months for an additional $30. If you want to do that, you have the option to just ignore all the support and just, you see, 10 years ago, I don't recall there being ransomware. 10 years ago, I don't recall the boldness and the frequency of the scamming and the complexity. So if we don't update our operating system is a measure of defense against ever ongoing improved attempts at hacking, then who are we hurting by refusing to upgrade because we think, oh, well, the hardware requirements are just silly. They're not silly. It's a lack of the end users really comprehending how dangerous the internet is becoming every day, more dangerous, more thieves every day. They see how easy it is to take your money, to steal your house. I don't remember house titles being stolen 10 years ago. And I'm not just talking about end users. I'm talking about real estate companies and title companies and businesses that are responsible for your data saying, we don't want to do this upgrade, right? Home users, I don't care if they do the upgrade or they don't. It's their stuff. What do I care? But businesses that have your stuff, you better demand they do it because they've got your stuff. So in other words, I can protect my credit card. I can make sure it never leaves my site. I don't let this, let's just say I don't let the server walk away with it. But the credit card company in the meantime has a back door that they don't realize because they haven't kept their systems updated. And now my credit card got stolen, even though I did nothing wrong. It's the credit card company, it's the credit reporting agency that dropped the ball. And now my identity has been stolen, right? That's why this has to be taken so seriously, because whether or not, if I moved into my neighborhood 40 years ago, and 40 years ago was a nice, well-kept neighborhood and you could leave your doors unlocked, what are the odds in an urban area that that neighborhood has gotten better in today's society? And I'm not even talking about the randomness of people online in other countries that hate your guts. They don't even know who you are. You're just American. The neighborhood's changing. The internet is a neighborhood and it's getting rough. And if you don't want to go outside without worrying about being mugged or harmed, then you need to put in some kind of protection. You need to protect yourself, or you need to move, right? Get away from there. I don't know how you get away from the internet. However, nobody has to. Nobody has to go for a walk around the block. You don't have to do that. If your neighborhood's dangerous, don't do that anymore. So, I was raised where we had to take care of ourselves. Nobody was coming to help us. When I was growing up as a Gen X, we were sent out the door and nobody knew where we were all day. And nobody was going to help us if somebody was bullying us. We were on our own. We were survivors. So what Microsoft is doing here is they are not leaving it up to you to protect yourself. And the reason they do that primarily, so they don't get the negative PR that all these people running Windows are now getting ransomware or they're getting their identity stolen. And now Microsoft has this negative press about their product. So Microsoft protects the end users from what they don't realize is so dangerous. And then they get the negative press from the end users going, you're forcing us to have to buy new computers. You see what I'm coming at with this?
Well, yeah, but you're taking my wording too serious. When I say they have to, nobody's forcing them, right? There's ways around it, but in order to stay properly secure and be proper in their reasonable professional pursuit in the business environment that I support, they have to have new computers. If we would do some kind of workaround or just go with a risk, that's not okay in a business environment. So I'm using have to different than the people who are really upset about at Microsoft for this. And I'm actually happy that they're doing this, and that it includes having to update computers, well, replace computers in most cases in my environment, and because of the security implementations. And yeah, I was welcoming of this when it first came out. There was a lot of people in the community very upset when this announcement first came out of what Windows 11 was going to require. When I studied up on it a little bit, I said, okay, I think this is good. So in my opinion, my clients, business operations, yes, they have to. Now, I do have actually a couple of clients who we might not. We might not replace their computers. We might leave them on Windows 10. In both cases, these are businesses who are winding down their operations and about to close down their business. So for that, it's not going to be one day your Windows 10 is safe and then the next day it's not. So there's other mitigations that we could put in place depending upon how long they go. But there are two of my clients that were not likely going to be replacing computers.
Yeah, and that makes sense, right? That's a different EOL. It's
right.
The EOL for the client.
It's an edge
won't
case.
Change. So Microsoft has been saying this for a long time. It's not like they didn't give anybody any warning. You've had lots of time, and you still have 6 months on top of that. Plus, there's the option of paying for extended support for another 12. I don't know what there is to have an issue with. Now, I did not like Windows 11 when it came out, and I made no secret about it. But it improved, and I started getting more familiar with it. And I think somebody asked me in the chat, when are you going to start installing Windows 11 by default for your clients? And I said, I don't know that there's going to be a day. I'll get a client that wants it, and I'm not resistant to putting it on. If that's what the client wants, that's what the client gets. And right now, my clients aren't asking for it, and I don't know it well enough to support it. But you'll start seeing me install it a little bit, and then before you know it, you'll think back and go, it's been a long time since I saw Carey install Windows 10. And that's exactly how it played out. And that took about a year from when I first saw Windows to when it just became, I'd say after a year, about 50-50, Windows 10, Windows 11, based on what the client preferred. And then when Microsoft stopped selling Windows 10, even though you can still buy Windows licenses online, you cannot buy them from Microsoft. They stopped selling them a couple of years ago. It's always been, my business follows the big daddy that is responsible for my work. That's Microsoft. So if Microsoft says you have to go to Windows 11, then I have to do what they're saying, or I have to alert my customer, and then I have to decide what liabilities I want my company to take on. If there's nothing more I can do because Microsoft isn't doing it, then there's nothing for me to pass on to the customer. I may have to separate ways with that customer versus risk liability with my company. So I have to keep that in mind. So if Microsoft isn't selling Windows 10 anymore, then I'm not selling Windows 10 anymore to my customers. If a customer specifically asks me, can I get it? So long as it's still supported by Microsoft, yes, I can. But all we're doing is prolonging the inevitable because if I build you a brand new computer with Windows 10 on it, we're just 6 months from now, you're going to need Windows 11. Why don't we just rip this Band-Aid off and be done with it? It's the same price. And as we talked about, Windows is free. Windows 11, I'm not talking about the free upgrade. It's a free operating system. So what, you have the watermark? So what, you can't change your wallpaper? Who cares? Where is this resistance coming from? I don't get it.
We've got Mara's issue, her File Explorer issue she's reminded us about. Are you set up to be able to demonstrate that?
Yes. Let me see what I can do. She has taken screenshots and provided them to us, and I'm hoping that we can replicate actually live on this little PC here, which is just a clean install, what she's talking about. And yeah, maybe you or someone in the chat here can help Mara out, because I'm even baffled by it. And let me go over here to my OBS, and well, first of all, let me go full screen like that. And let me go to the first screenshot, which is right here. Now, I don't know if you want to follow along, but she's saying you open File Explorer, you click on, let's say you want to make a new folder. So she says you click in the directory window, and it will default to this address bar up at the top above, next to the refresh arrow there. And she's got 3 images. So this is image 1. The second image says, step 2 is then click new, which I'm guessing is she's referring to the button that says new on the top left.
Yeah.
Then folder, and then it will default to the address bar and not to the new directory to change the name. That'll say new folder, right? That's the default name. So you go to type your new name, and you're not typing the folder name, you're back up at the address bar where it's highlighted in red above. And then step 3, she says, try to select an object inside of the directory. It wasn't that the first thing I saw. Do I see the same thing twice? Oh, so click in the directory window. That was step 1. And then step 3, try to select an object inside of the directory, and it defaults to the address bar. So I guess what I need to do is fire up this little guy. Oh, he's already fired up. So I should be able to just go to, let's see, this is camera 2. Turn off camera 1 and turn off the image. Okay, so now we're at a desktop here. Are you seeing it okay?
Yes, I see the desktop.
Okay. So let me see if I understand this correctly. We will go down here to the yellow folder. And let's go to downloads, let's just say. And click inside of here, right? And I go, okay, I want a new folder. So I click new folder and I start typing. That's all fine. And then she says, select any object in here. And for her, and this is 2 separate computers she's experienced this on. It keeps bringing her up here instead of where she wants to be down here.
I'm not able to replicate what I think she's describing.
I think I need to have Mara demonstrate it for us.
Maybe on her computer even. She's had it on 2 separate computers, but I'm wondering if she's done some configurations on those 2 computers that are the same, which causes that to happen. Can she replicate that on your computer, on this new computer?
Fair question. I'm under the impression that apart from like some software, she's not like doing any like Windows utilities or anything like that that would customize it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it wouldn't have a side effect regardless. Mara says, I always open directories using start, run, and then type in such as D:, and then have the window open.
Okay, so she's not launching File Explorer manually.
No.
Let's start run and then type in a drive and folder name that she wants to go to and press enter. So I just did that. Now if I click on any item, I'm clicking on a file that's inside that folder. My cursor did not go up to the address bar.
So if you click new, like click inside of the window, then click new and folder.
Yeah.
And then just without clicking anymore, start typing the folder name.
Yeah.
Does it type the folder name, or are you up at the
address? It types the folder name inside the body of the window at the folder name. It has not gone up to the address bar. I have not seen anything that takes me up to the address bar.
When I was working with Mara on this issue on the prior computer, it didn't do it all the time. And that's part of the thing that was driving me a little crazy because it's intermittent. That's why we didn't clone anything over. We started fresh and clean on the new machine. And now she's making it sound, and I haven't verified that it's happening all the time. So maybe she can come down. Maybe she can come downstairs and demonstrate this for us on this little computer. I don't know if she can hear me. Let's see a couple questions here in the chat while we're waiting. Chris Garrett said he's afraid of the unknown. That's why he's not going to Windows 11. He's afraid that if he goes to Windows 11, he may have issues. Okay, I'm afraid of that I could fall down, so I'm never going to get out of my chair. That's not going to get you anywhere with that perspective, man. When you actually have issues, we're here to help you. But what we can help you with are issues not related to the computer, right? That's a frame of mind. It's a perspective. It's an attitude. I can't help you with that. But if you actually do it, and if you actually have a problem that actually exists, then both Doug and myself and our community could easily help you. But otherwise, there's nothing we can do to help. You're just going to continue with that indefinitely. And anyway, so Mara, welcome down.
Oh, he's saying the rest of his comments clarify more of that statement. And that one comment you read from Chris kind of.
Oh, there's more to it?
I think gave you a misunderstanding of what he's saying.
Well, I just saw what I saw. If comments are all separated out, 10 apart, you have to keep it all together. I don't know how I'm supposed to. When there's actual problems, and I'm just having a hard time imagining what he could have written. When you have actual problems that you can specify, we can specify how to fix them. But I didn't see anything specific about that. I just saw anxiety.
It was actually the very first. It was the immediately prior comment. There's 3 comments there together, and let's see. Windows 10 has been great. That's why I'm still running. I have radio programming software, and certain cables had issues for a long time on 10. So
what's that got to do with 11?
An unusual. He's had unusual situations with getting that to work right on 10. Took him a while to get it working right on 10. And now he's thinking if he goes to 11 that he's going to have issues again. I think he will do it. He will eventually do it. He's just anticipating that he's going to have troubles. And he might be right. I mean, he had substantial troubles with Windows 10. He will know when he goes to Windows 11 and tries it.
That's what I'm saying.
He will get there. He will get there. He's just saying he's got emotions about it. I understand that, but he will go there.
Didn't Eleanor Roosevelt say something along the lines of, you must do the thing you think you cannot do, or you must, whatever your fear is, you must face it. I mean, this is long before both of us, right? Before we were even on this planet fighting this common human anxiety. And where fear comes from is lack of familiarity. You're just not comfortable. It's unfamiliar. And the only way you're ever going to get comfortable is you have to be uncomfortable. That's what leads you to comfortable. There's no shortcut to it. So as long as you use your imagination and fear, FEAR, false expectations appearing real, then you falsely believe yourself to be avoiding an issue that was never going to be an issue, and you never have the experience, and you think, well, thank goodness I never had that bad thing happen, when you never tried. So this is a psychological thing that I'm constantly, I've battled with it myself, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I wish somebody had taught it to me sooner. And it only benefits you. It doesn't benefit anybody else. So if you won't do it for yourself, you have the key to let yourself out of your own cell if you choose to unlock it. It's got really philosophical, but it's just very passionate about it.
Let me give you his next comment, and it's directed towards you. He says, I fear staying on Windows 10, so I'm going to face it.
Okay, well, that's what I want to hear. I want to hear somebody.
He's fine. He's going to be fine with it.
Good. All right.
He will get through it.
We're here to help. Look, you're not alone. You've got a whole community. We got your back. Mara, come on over. Let's put Mara to work.
Oh, good.
And show us what is happening over here. Let me, I'm going to just move you aside here for a second, Doug. I think we can go, should we go this way? Okay. So we still see Doug over there. Mm-hmm. I've got this computer at the desktop. This is the mouse. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch our camera feed to that desktop. And I'd like you to demonstrate for us. Let me go full screen over here so we can see. You know what? We might be making the desktop too small. But go ahead and close that out. And then give me a demonstration of what you're doing.
Just so you know, it's kind of blurry.
It is a little blurry?
Yeah, but I don't think you're going to get much better with the free version of StreamYard. I think that's the 720.
Let me go full screen on it just to get that extra resolution. Sorry, Doug, I have to push you
Yeah.
off the screen. And then let me go back over to OBS, and let me go back to full screen on our side. Hopefully that's a little clearer. So she's clicked on start, and she's typing what? C:\\. Okay. She clicks on new folder. And she types in the folder name. Then she enters the folder that she's created, clicks on new folder, enters the folder name. I'm guessing this isn't the way it's working on your computer.
No.
Is it working sometimes?
Yes. Well, sort of.
Yes, sometimes, sort of. Thanks for clarifying that for me. Now she's going to draw for us.
I'm just
I would
putting
like
something in that directory.
Oh, well, you just mimicked my autograph.
There you go. Perfect. Now I'll have to sign your name everywhere.
Well, you've got it nailed down. That's exactly the way I sign it. Okay.
Okay. So, because I work in directories all day, every day, what'll happen is like I showed in the images, is I explain, like, for example, I will want to, like, for example, change the name. I always press F2 to do so. It's actually working here. Instead of me being able to do that, as soon as I either select the object or try to press F2, it immediately seems to default to the address line instead of me being able to change the name.
How about using screen recording to record that from your computer? Then Carey can present it.
Yeah.
In
Okay.
another show.
Yeah. Sure.
We're going to be able to do that really easily because, and I don't know if you have any interest in this, Doug, but there is, let's go start without the data. Let's turn that off. When we get this product,
Yes. Can't wait for this.
we will be able to control any computer remotely without any software by simply plugging this into a USB port and HDMI output.
Yes.
And then I can even access the BIOS. I can see the boot up screen. And it doesn't matter if I put this in a client's office somewhere in another country, or if we use it here in the house. So for example, we could, when we're testing this, hook this up to Mara's computer. It's $69, which is ridiculously cheap for.
Oh, I thought it was 4,959.
No, that's the Kickstarter.
That's the
That's
Kickstarter.
cool.
All right.
Yeah,
I was swallowing hard over here.
$69.
This is the coolest tool you will ever come across.
Well,
Yes.
supposedly, we'll
This
see.
would have saved me hours and hours while working. Oh my goodness.
It looks very promising. It's very small. It's very affordable, and it should work regardless of the operating system, and
All right.
give full remote access without any remote access software.
Yes.
You could even activate switches with it, like if you had a Electro switch, or even it has an add-in card where you can turn the computer on and off if you buy the add-in card. And again, if you were a little electronics minded, and you could wire up switches to have it physically hit switches for you. And again, I'm going off of everything I know about it. There's a few YouTube reviews on this for people that already got their products, and they're doing it in batches. So I know it's a real thing. They're not just taking people's money and running. Now I'm kind of wishing I would have ordered two, and I haven't even got the first one yet. But what I'm saying is that if we had that today, I would simply activate Mara's computer while she's upstairs and have her demonstrate the problem, and we would get the video feed here that I could capture with OBS and then throw it out onto the screen. How cool is that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, it doesn't actually exist yet, though, does it?
It does
It does.
exist in the sense that, if we go to YouTube, I got to use the right mouse though, don't I?
But are they available to actually order and receive?
Yes,
Or okay,
You can
'cause
order
that's-
it, but
this was looking like a Kickstarter to me. That
it is a Kickstarter, and so here's what's happened. If we look down at like the different platforms, it says estimated delivery down here.
Okay.
There was already a batch that went out in January. Now your next
Ah,
estimated delivery will be the next batch in February. Those went out.
right.
Now
Right.
if you order now, your estimated delivery will be in May. And you see how they're making a limited amount. Like this is how many we're going to make in this batch. So if this sells
Yeah.
out, you'll have to wait. It'll be sold out, but then the next batch. And eventually the goal is to just get it out so that it's at Amazon and stuff.
All right. Now
It's all
the
open
other,
source too.
yeah. Now the other thing is you could actually just connect remotely to a computer too, right?
Well, if you just want to simplify everything, I could pull Instant House Call up and do it that way.
Right. Right.
I
So,
was
but
looking.
I understand that this has other features to it that instant house call would not be able to do, right?
Like the BIOS.
Yeah. Right.
So for my customers that want Windows 11 that I have disabled the TPM on, I have to go in the BIOS, and trying to find it in the BIOS is different with every board. And I don't know
Yeah.
what to tell the customer to look for. And if I had something like that, I could do it right from here. I wouldn't have to get in the car, go over there, push a few buttons, and then drive back. So
Now
I'm
they
seeing
they actually have to have one of these devices at their location though, right?
I could mail it to them, for
Yeah.
69
then,
bucks, just ask them to plug it in for me.
and then they could move it from one computer to another.
Yep.
So that you could work on the other computers. Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. No, if it's everything they say it is, and this
Yeah.
company GLINet is coming out with one that's on pre-order. It's not a Kickstarter. And I ordered one of each so I can compare them, because these kind of devices like Pi KVMs are like 400 bucks and more. This is extraordinarily inexpensive and small.
Yes.
It's really small. So I can't wait to review it and then to actually put it into practice. Even if I'm at the end of the show and let's say I need to update this to Windows 24 H2 and it's going to be an hour, I have to come back downstairs and kind of check on it from time to time. If I could just plug the KVM in it without putting any software on it, I can be upstairs on a computer there and just see how the computer downstairs is doing. And with that, there's almost no lag at all. When you move the mouse on the screen, maybe a little millisecond delay,
Right.
you get like 2 mice. And if there's a long delay, you move your mouse and then you see it get right. It's a little trippy when there's a lot of lag. But anyway, if you want to learn more about it, thank you, Mara.
No problem.
Well, Mara, one other, somebody in chat has said something related to your issue. Phil Stodd, I have had issues in the past where Windows would not react well to directories that have less than 3 letters or all numbers. So the question would be, are these short folder names or
No.
only numbers? I don't think so.
No.
Right? No.
Absolutely
Okay,
not.
good. Yeah, look forward to seeing the
Thank you, Val.
video. You're welcome.
I'll see what we could do to capture that, and we'll follow up with it.
Okay.
So we gave it a shot.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're just almost at 2 hours here. I don't know how long you want to stick around, or you're welcome to stay as long as you'd like. But if you have any questions in the chat room, and I will say this again, I would not hesitate, because the show will be wrapping up sooner rather than later. And we want to make sure we give everybody a chance to interact with us. John Paul Bacon wants to know if we can attach the Jet KVM to a router and be able to access any computer on the network with this device. I don't know how you access devices through your router. That doesn't make sense to me. But if you want to learn more about it, go to just type Jet KVM in YouTube and see some of the reviews. Some reviews are more comprehensive than others, and see from the actual reviewers how they show it and demonstrate it. I think that will probably answer most of your questions. And then anybody who's reviewed it obviously has it. I don't have it. So then if you have follow-up questions, maybe leave that on the reviewers YouTube comment section, see if they'll respond.
People have noticed that my camera is a little delayed. To me, I see a herky-jerky thing to it. And I'd like to experiment with that right now, if you don't mind, to switch. Instead of using my OBS virtual camera, I'll exit OBS and turn the camera on directly into StreamYard. I should be able to do that while we're live.
Yeah, You can do that.
Yeah, so it's probably going to make my screen go blank, my camera
I'll tell
go
you what,
blank.
I'll come over to me and hide you,
Yeah.
and you can do whatever you
Okay.
need and tell me when you're ready.
All right, so I am shutting down OBS so that StreamYard will be able to have direct access to the camera. And that'll take a moment or two. And then reconfigure StreamYard, and I'll be very eager to see if people notice a difference. Let's get the right one here. I think it's this one. Yeah, there we go. And that. Okay.
Oh,
Do you have me back?
McNeil, let me interrupt for just a second. Kevin McNeil says Mara's problem may be the keyboard is not in function mode. So when she's hitting F2 on her keyboard, it's defaulting to a secondary function of the F2 key. And she does love her keyboard, and that is a constant between the two computers.
Ah,
Might
good
be on
idea.
something. Yeah.
Good
And
idea.
we have plenty of keyboards. I can swap her keyboard out just to say, hey, is the problem still happening? And we can eliminate. She won't even try. She says no. You could try. Just try it.
Try what?
Just try a different keyboard. Just to see.
Seriously?
It's free. It takes 2
Troubleshooting.
It
seconds
happens on two different computers on two different
with the
keyboards.
same keyboard.
No, it's a different keyboard.
Oh, she's getting upset.
That's
the same
PC
keyboard.
has a totally different keyboard.
You're
It's
telling?
the other PC behind me.
Oh, you're running 2 computers right now,
Duh.
and
You know this.
they're that other computer's been off up until recently.
No.
So you're saying you're exhibiting the exact same behavior.
Yes.
2 completely different computers,
Yes,
2
with two
completely different
different
keyboards.
Yes.
They're not connected except through the network.
Correct.
There's no physical connection between
No.
them. Okay.
It was still a good question.
It was still a good
question.
a good
It was an
suggestion.
excellent question.
Yes.
And it's not
We did
just
not
what
know.
I do. I don't always have to change names of whatever object I'm selecting. If I select in the window, no matter what, just to get into that directory, it will default to the address bar.
But it didn't happen
Very
here.
exciting.
But it didn't
It
happen.
didn't happen there.
Is it only happening on network shares?
No.
It'll happen on local
folders.
folders as well.
Yes.
Well, again, we'll make a video of it and
All right.
we'll go from there. My apologies for trying to help.
What were you thinking?
What was I thinking? All right, let me go back over to you, Doug. Let's see. Does your video still look?
Yeah, it looks better to me.
Now you're on a web camera.
Yes.
Okay. So the benefit of using the OBS virtual camera is you can just change inputs, like I was going from that desktop to, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whereas-
Right. Absolutely. I use that. I use it all the time.
And so my camera is using the virtual OBS. And does my video look jerky?
I don't see your video.
Oh, I guess I need to put but you've seen it. Like, has it been?
Yeah. No. You've looked fine.
So there's got to be more to it. There's got to be maybe a setting. Interesting. So yeah, the only problem really is if you want to change your input to share like a screen, something like that. StreamYard makes it.
Yeah.
You can still do that in StreamYard. It's just.
Well, when I first tested your link for StreamYard, and it lets me make choices for the video and audio, that symptom was existing there. So it was even before we went live.
That's very interesting. And I wonder if it has to do, well, it can't be with the free version versus the paid, because now it seems fine.
Well, it could be with the free version with OBS virtual camera.
But I'm
Because
using
it seems fine now, but now we're not doing the virtual camera.
I am.
Okay, your guest is not.
Right. I don't know.
I don't know.
But it looks good. Like
I don't know.
I do. I do see the difference. The video is smoother,
You
but
see a
it
difference,
wasn't
yeah.
bothering me. It wasn't like, to me, it wasn't a big deal. But
Yeah, people in chat are confirming that it looks better now.
Reading through some of the comments. Let's see.
Chevy, third from the last chat comment. I sometimes get Microsoft Word is not responding. Any suggestions? I've seen this where up in the title bar of Microsoft Word, you'll see a not responding message. And I'm trying to think back. The times where I've seen that, it's like when I'm connected remotely to a client's computer and they've got a lot of stuff open. The computer is likely swapping things in and out from swap file. Maybe it's saving to a network share. Maybe the server's busy, and so the save is slow to respond. I'm kind of throwing ideas out of the top of my head. We've never actually cared enough to try to troubleshoot it out and figure out what's happening. If the document itself is very complex, if your hard drive actually is having some problems, what else? I'll throw that ball into Carey's court, see what he has to say.
Well, it's such a vague description without knowing anything about the operating system, the version of Windows, how often it's happening. Has it always been happening? I guess what I would do, just as because it's a vague question, I can only really give you a vague response. I would hit Control-Alt-Delete, hit the task manager and sort it by CPU usage and see what's going on in that moment. Just when you get that pop-up that's whatever it is not responding, Control-Alt-Delete, task manager, sort by CPU usage. See what's going on. See if you
I got another idea. I've had situations where File Explorer, when you pull it up, will take a long time to populate a folder. I have a video, I believe, published for the green bar loading, taking a long time to load. If that's what's going on for your computer, that it's easy to see that Microsoft Word could be impacted by that, especially if you have an autosave happening due to OneDrive configuration. And the not responding is that the places where I've seen it is actually working on the document, not while trying to open it or save it. Is that when this is happening for you, Chevy, or is it when you're trying to open a file or close it? And which takes me back to the green bar loading delay is the name of my video. I'm going to try to go grab a link to that video.
You make a great point, and that is so many people are using OneDrive and Microsoft Office 365 that the internet congestion and speed of the servers and the speed of your ISP, the size of the document, all of that's going to play a role in causing that delay. I had a customer whose previous, that's a keyword, previous tech put all their stuff on the cloud. And everything got so slow for them. Anytime they try and open documents, spreadsheets, it was driving them crazy. And it was sold to them as, hey, you can work from home, da-da-da-da. Well, they were doing that already with Synology Drive. And it was faster, even remotely. And when they access it locally in the office, it's instantaneous. So, yeah, good on you for pointing that out, because it's probably, if it's internet dependent, like you're loading the file from an online resource, then I get it. That would make total sense.
Now, this solution about the green bar loading is not related to storing on the internet. It's related to something going on with File Explorer. So I just put those two video links in chat.
He still hasn't told us what kind of computer it is. Like if I load a big document up on this little Ace Magic or Ace Magician, this is a little N100 4-core, 8 gigs of RAM or 12 gigs of RAM on this one. It's sort of like having a really low horsepower car and you're trying to run it at the races, right? So maybe that's a thing. I don't know. We don't know anything about his computer, what it's capable of, and whether or not he has a realistic expectation of the burden he's placing on the computer, how that computer would handle that burden. Maybe it's doing exactly what it can do. I don't know. Maybe he's got a high-end flagship machine. That would help to know.
Yeah, he does say the dock is huge. So that implies to me that he's only having the problem on this one huge document. If it also has large pictures in it, like where you have not trimmed down the resolution, so you've got multiple pictures in there that are megabytes in size because they're high resolution. I have seen situations where that really makes Microsoft Word struggle.
What is huge, though? Like, what
Yeah,
would you consider to be a huge document file size?
Well, let's see, I'm trying to think, but 10 megabytes in a Word document.
10 megs or bigger?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll agree with you on that. And so what does Chevy think is a huge file size?
Yeah. And is he thinking huge in terms of number of pages or file size?
He says he's got an i7 12th gen with 64 gigs of RAM. That should be plenty for any Word document. Yeah.
That's good.
Where's he sourcing the Word document from? Is it pulling any of the images off, from an internet resource, or is it all built into the one file? What version of Microsoft Office is he using? Is it Office 2003? Is it Office 365? Martin Hogg mentions you could try installing LibreOffice for free and see if that makes that, maybe you just load the free version of LibreOffice when you want to work on that one document. I mean, that's a workaround. It's not a fix, but yeah, doesn't cost anything. So, all right. Well, everything gotten slow down here in the chat.
And I think that might be a cue to wrap up.
Kane is coming out and pull me away off stage.
2 hours is about as long as I should be going on anything. So I'm
for both of us, and I usually go further. Just usually only gets worse. Quit when we're ahead is what you're saying. Yes. All right. Well, thank you again. Thank you, Doug, for joining us. And of course, Doug's YouTube channel. We have a link to that in the chat. You're doing what, 6 days a week from like, is it 9 a.m. you're starting in California?
Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. And that show is intended to be about half an hour long. And then Saturdays is intended to be 2 hours long. And that starts at 11 a.m. It's all times in Pacific time zone.
And your format is come on and bring your questions.
Yeah, really the reason behind this the channel, the main focus is responding to people's questions for issues that they're having with their Windows-based computers. And I don't care if they are a beginner with a computer or a hobbyist with a computer, IT pro, talking about their own personal computers or their office computers. And even my own clients, if my own clients seek help through my YouTube channel, I will provide that service free to them. And some of them have been on my channel. They've been on with me on Zoom, on camera, and then subsequently they choose to just pay me rather than coming back on through the camera again. Legitimately, with dealing with a live audience, it takes longer to resolve their issue when we're doing a show. So they'd rather just pay for it.
Sure. So you're available for free if you want to share the, so Doug gets content out of it. Or...
Yeah, it's all only content. So if somebody sends me an email asking me a question, wanting me to respond by email and not including on my show. No, that doesn't happen.
What
I
about
will
for a
just-
fee?
For a fee? Yeah, I've done that a couple times through people that I connected with during the show. They turned out to be deadbeats and
Oh.
did not pay.
You got to get the
I
money up front.
get the money up front. Yeah, I'm open to that. I'm just not pushing for it.
Yeah, I gotcha. Well, just to
Not
put it out there.
advertising. Yeah.
So yeah, you can always catch Doug's show before my show during the week, and a great community and lots of recorded content to see some previous problems and solutions that he and the community have come up with, even edited down in some cases to just the nitty gritty, which is a great service to the community when you're Googling for problem solving. It may just be one of Doug's videos you're clicking on to get the solution. So you could be more proactive and participate in those and be aware of these ongoing issues and solutions that haven't yet impacted you to sort of increase your technical foo. I watch it. I enjoy it. I've learned a lot from watching Doug's channel, and he even helped me out with a recent issue I was having, Doug and the community, that I honestly, there's a certain kind of work I like doing, and there's a certain kind of work I don't like doing. And the idea that I was able to take something I didn't want to do, offer it to Doug, and Doug was like, yes, please, eating it up, and the community. And I was like, well, you're welcome for solving my problem. I do appreciate it.
Yeah.
And it won't be the last time.
Good. And I'm developing a points system in my channel that I would actually, the highest value points goes to solving a problem presented by some other content creator. So that's my way of trying to encourage you and tell you, I really do want you to ask questions. Now, another piece of it, I probably need to promote this more, but if some people don't want to watch my shows, but want to be able to ask questions, that's absolutely fine. If you keep my email address, you can send a question to an email without even watching any of my shows. And what will happen is I'll respond to the question on my show and then reply to your email with a link to the point in my show where we dealt with that. So you don't even have to watch a whole show if you don't want to. That's completely fine.
But they're also not getting necessarily a personal response like we talked about. You're like a private response. It'll be a public response.
Oh yeah, it's a public response. But
Okay.
it's
Just
just
so
the
we're
point
clear.
is they can send an email.
Yeah.
I will respond to it during a live show.
You'll read it
and
out
then
loud.
Send them a link to that. Yeah. I will
You'll-
protect their company name. I'll protect their personal name, their email address.
And he does.
Yeah.
And I'm not even sure how he covers all that stuff up live, but he knows some things in OBS I don't know, which is pretty cool. And I don't necessarily need to know it, but I'm very curious. He's got some buttons I don't have. All right. Chevy with a $10 super chat right out. Thank you, Chevy. Thanks to all of our members who make these videos possible. Another shout out and a thank you to both Doug and Mara, who, again, without whom, well, we just wouldn't have a show without this entire community and all those involved. And I thank each and every one of you. And those of you who were brave enough to ask a question or make a comment in the chat, we certainly appreciate it very, very much. And I continue to make content regularly. Doug continues to make content regularly. So if you're new to this, we hope, so long as you're a kind individual, that you will join us in our videos, in our communities, and become a part of that. Oh, and look, Mike's Unboxing has been in here this whole time. I thought he popped in to say hello and left. My bad, Mike. So Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To also has a very interactive chat room and a lot of computer builds and reviews of products based in England. And what's great about what he does is we get a lot of viewers from the UK, and they're like, yeah, but how much is this in the UK? Or is this available? I don't know. And with Mike, it's the other way around. This is a great case, Carey. You should buy one. Well, they don't sell that in the United States. Now I got a taste of it. So yeah, some great content creators right here. Doug Betts, Mike's Unboxing. And, you know, if you enjoy my content, I think you're going to like their content even more. So please check them out. Decide for yourself. Doug, thank you again.
Yes, you're
And
welcome. And thank you.
We'll look forward to seeing you tomorrow. You have a show, 9 a.m.
Yep.
We will see you then. Thanks to everybody joining us. We will see you all again very, very soon. Until next time, bye for now.
Bye-bye.